Hi guys. So the genre that I had gotten assigned to is poetry. And the way that I will be teaching my students about poetry is with concrete evidence. So to start off the lesson with my students, I would simply create a T-chart, and one side would be what they already know about poetry, and then we would fill it out later after the course of a few lessons and after talking about poetry. So I kind of just created a sample T-chart here that some of the kids could come up with. So like it says, poems are like songs. They could be memorized. They rhyme. They could be funny, and poems have feelings. So just by doing the T-chart, this will kind of generate ideas that the students have. So I'll just kind of start going into the lesson. So class, today we are going to be learning about poetry. But before I start anything, I have one question. How is poetry like a jar? So think to yourself for about a minute. Just why do you think poetry is like a jar? So I would let the students think for a minute. Okay, so hold on to your thinking, and we will come back to that after a little bit. So for right now, though, I want to tell you about my grandma. There's two different ways that I could tell you about my grandma, and one is with my head, and the other one is with my heart. So with my head, my grandma's name is Shirley. She worked at a gas station with her husband. My grandma goes to Bone Builders every single morning, and this past year my grandma was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And now I'll tell you ways and things about my grandma from my heart. So my grandma is the most caring person I know. She has worked harder than anyone that I know, and she doesn't stop. She doesn't let her age stop her by going to Bone Builders every single morning, and she's 85 years old. And she is the strongest person I know, and she is such a fighter. So now think to yourselves, what do you think is different between thinking with your head and thinking with your heart? So I'd give the students a little bit to kind of think about what the difference is, and then I would call on a few students and kind of just gauge what their thinking is. And some answers that they could say is, with your heart, you don't really show feelings, you just state facts. It's nonfiction when you use your head, but with your heart, it's so much better because you see the feelings that you have about these topics, and you're able to put them in your poems. So then I'm going to drop my papers into the jar, and these are all my feelings about my grandma. And now I need you guys to turn and talk about the question that I asked before. How is poetry like a jar? So I'd give them about a minute and a half to turn and talk and kind of come up with a few ideas, and then I'll call on a few. Poetry is like a jar because it holds my heart, and my feelings need a place to go so I can put them into a poem just like I put them into this jar. So just kind of like to end the lesson, I would ask one final question, and that would be, can anyone else think of what poetry could be like? And the chapter kind of gave answers to that. But yeah, thanks for watching.